Have you ever wondered why some people seem unshaken, even when life hits them hard? They lose their job, someone betrays them, a dream collapses, and yet they don't fall apart. Not because they're cold or numb, but because they've built something deep inside, mental toughness. Not the kind that shouts or pretends to be strong, but the quiet kind, the kind that breathes deeply in chaos, that listens before reacting, that gets back up, not once, but every time. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. Welcome to Stoic Journey Moments, where we dive into the timeless wisdom of Stoicism to help you stay grounded, strong, and clear, no matter what life throws your way. In this episode, we're going deep into 10 painful but powerful Stoic lessons, lessons that may challenge how you see the world, but if embraced, will quietly reshape how you live, think, and respond. Because here's the truth. Life isn't fair. It's unpredictable. It doesn't ask for your permission to throw storms at you. But Stoicism doesn't promise to make life easier. It promises to make you stronger. And that's the shift. Instead of trying to control the world, Stoicism teaches us to master the one thing we can truly own, ourselves. It's not about suppressing emotion or pretending to be unaffected. It's about learning to stand steady in discomfort, to turn inward when the outside becomes too loud, to respond, not react. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca lived in times of war, betrayal, exile, and plague. Yet they wrote words so calm, so grounded, that they still speak to us 2,000 years later. Why? Because the battle they fought wasn't just outside, it was within. And their greatest victory was this: to suffer wisely and still remain whole. In this video, we'll walk through the 10 core lessons that help you do the same. We'll talk about how to master your perspective when the world feels chaotic, accept what you cannot change without becoming passive, embrace the now instead of being consumed by regrets or worries, and detach not from love or life, but from the illusion of control. Each of these lessons comes from lived experience, from the kind of pain that forces you to choose. Will I break or will I grow? And that's why this video isn't just about philosophy, it's about practice. It's for anyone who's ever been overwhelmed, heartbroken, disappointed, or lost. And anyone who's asked, how do I stay strong when I feel anything but? And I want to be honest with you from the start. These lessons aren't easy. They will ask you to reflect, to pause, to let go. Sometimes they'll ask you to forgive yourself for holding on so tightly. But if you stay with me through this video, if you open your mind to what Stoicism truly offers, you won't just survive life's hardships. You'll begin to move through them with clarity, inner steadiness, and quiet strength. Because real resilience isn't built in comfort. It's forged in struggle, in solitude, in silence, and in your ability to choose how you respond, even when everything feels out of your control. So if you're ready to grow, not in the loud, dramatic way the world celebrates, but in the calm, steady way the Stoics practiced, you're in the right place. Take a breath. Let's begin our journey through the 10 painful but liberating Stoic lessons that build unshakable mental toughness from the inside out. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Part 1. Mastering your perspective. You can't always choose what happens, but you can always choose how you see it. Have you ever caught yourself spiraling into frustration, not because of what happened, but because of how you interpreted it? Maybe someone didn't reply to your message, and your mind immediately went to, they must be ignoring me. Or a small mistake at work turned into, I'm a failure. I'll never get this right. We've all been there. And what's so striking isn't the situation itself. It's how quickly our thoughts can distort reality and intensify our suffering. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not the size of your paycheck, not the people who like you, not the perfection of your plans, your thoughts, your interpretation of what's happening around you. That's where your power begins." This is the first and perhaps most essential lesson in building mental toughness. Mastering your perspective. In a world that often feels overwhelming, this simple truth is deeply empowering. You don't have to believe every thought you think. You don't have to let every negative spiral define your day or your identity. The first step is self-awareness. Pay attention to the mental stories you tell yourself when things go wrong. Ask, is this true? Or is this just my fear or insecurity taking the wheel? Let's say you didn't get that promotion. Do you immediately jump to, I must not be good enough? Or can you pause, reflect, and think, maybe this is feedback. Maybe it's redirecting me towards something better. This is what modern psychologists call cognitive reframing, and what the Stoics practiced long before it had a name. It's the ability to look at the same event from a different angle, one that serves growth instead of self-doubt. It's not about toxic positivity or pretending everything is fine. It's about telling yourself the whole truth, not just the version your fear wants you to believe. One tool that helps with this is mindfulness. When you slow down and actually observe your thoughts without judging them, you begin to see how many of them are just habits, echoes of old fears, or unexamined beliefs. Mindfulness creates space between the event and your reaction, and in that space you find your power. Instead of snapping at someone out of anger, you breathe. Instead of panicking about the future, you return to the present. Instead of letting self-criticism run wild, you remind yourself, this is a moment, not my identity. Even just 5 minutes a day of sitting quietly with your breath can begin to retrain your mind. It's like cleaning a foggy lens. Suddenly, things start to look clearer, sharper, kinder. Another powerful, often overlooked influence? Your environment. Who are you listening to? What kind of energy are you absorbing daily? From the news, from social media, from conversations? The Stoics believed that just as we train the body through what we consume, we train the mind through the ideas and voices we surround ourselves with. So surround yourself with people, real or virtual, who remind you of your strength, who challenge you kindly, who speak to your potential, not your fears. Read words that uplift. Reflect on thoughts that empower. Let ancient wisdom and present-day clarity be the companions that shape your lens. Because the truth is this, you don't need to change your life to change your experience of it. Sometimes all you need to change is how you see. And that kind of change doesn't require permission. It begins right here in your mind, with the decision to pause, observe, and choose differently. So ask yourself today, what would my life feel like if I stopped believing every anxious thought? What might open up if I learned to reframe failure as feedback or conflict as an opportunity for compassion? You can't control everything around you, but you can master the one thing that shapes everything else, your perspective. That's where real freedom begins. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now let's move to the second lesson, how to find strength in accepting what you cannot control. Because once you've taken charge of your thoughts, the next challenge is learning to let go. Part 2, accept what you cannot change. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's choosing where your strength goes. How much of your stress comes from trying to fix things you were never meant to control? Think about that for a second. We spend so much energy fighting reality, arguing with time, resisting change, trying to control people, outcomes, even the past. But what if the path to peace wasn't through more control, but through deeper acceptance? Epictetus, one of the core voices of Stoic philosophy, said it simply: some things are up to us and some things are not. And that one line, if you truly take it in, can change the way you move through life. Let's be clear, acceptance is not weakness. It's not apathy or surrendering to a life you don't want. It's a courageous redirection of your energy from what you can't control to what you can. And that distinction is everything. Picture this. You're stuck in traffic, running late to something important. You could sit there fuming, yelling at cars, feeling helpless, or you could breathe, turn on something inspiring, and reclaim that moment for yourself. The traffic didn't change, but you did. That's the power of acceptance, because when you stop fighting what you can't change, you begin to reclaim your strength. Modern psychology calls this radical acceptance, the practice of fully acknowledging what is without judgment. It's not pretending you're fine when you're not. It's saying, this is where I am right now. I don't have to love it, but I can meet it with clarity. Let's say a relationship ends. It hurts. Your mind might scream, this shouldn't be happening. But reality is whispering, it already is. Radical acceptance means pausing and saying, yes, this hurts. Yes, I wish it were different, but I'm here and I can still choose how to move forward. That shift from resistance to awareness is where healing begins. The Stoics were masters of this mindset. They constantly reflected on impermanence, not as a depressing thought, but as a way to stay rooted in what really matters. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. That may sound intense, but it's actually freeing. When we remember that everything, our circumstances, our roles, our possessions, is temporary, we stop gripping so tightly. We begin to ask, if this moment doesn't last forever, how do I want to meet it? With anger and fear, or with calm and presence? And suddenly, the little things we stress about lose some of their grip. Now here's something most people overlook. Acceptance also means accepting your own emotions. It's okay to feel disappointed, overwhelmed, frustrated. Stoicism isn't about suppressing those feelings. It's about creating space for them without letting them take over. You might feel helpless when something goes wrong. That's normal. But you don't have to stay there. You can acknowledge your reaction with self-compassion instead of self-criticism. Imagine talking to yourself the way you'd talk to a close friend. This is hard. You didn't expect this, but you're doing your best and you'll find your way through. That kind of inner dialogue isn't weakness. It's emotional maturity. So how do we put this into practice? Start by asking yourself, in moments of stress, is this within my control? If yes, take action. If no, breathe, let it go. Shift your focus. You can't control the weather, other people's behavior, or what already happened, but you can control your attitude, your boundaries, your daily choices, and the way you speak to yourself. And that's where true strength lies, not in controlling life, but in choosing your response to it. Let me offer you a gentle challenge. This week, when something doesn't go your way, pause. Don't react right away. Just ask, what part of this can I influence? And what part do I need to release? You may find that 80% of your stress evaporates simply because you're no longer holding what isn't yours to carry. Acceptance is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. But over time, it becomes your foundation. The world may stay chaotic, unpredictable, unfair even, but you stay steady because you've learned to save your energy for what actually matters. Your mindset, your actions, your peace. That's not passivity. That's wisdom. That's mental toughness in its purest form. And as the Stoics remind us, fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. Let yourself be led, not by fear, but by clarity. Now let's move to the third lesson, how embracing the present moment can dissolve your anxiety and restore your inner strength. Part 3, Embrace the Now. The only time you truly own is now. Let me ask you something. How much of your mind is stuck in places your body isn't? Maybe you're physically here, but mentally you're replaying something that happened last week, or worrying about a conversation that hasn't even happened yet. It's so easy to get caught between the past and the future. Regret pulling us backward, anxiety pulling us forward. And in the middle, we miss the one moment that's real, the now. Marcus Aurelius, in the midst of wars and political pressure, wrote one of the simplest but most powerful reminders: confine yourself to the present. Not because the past or future don't matter, but because this moment, right here, is the only place where we can actually do something, where we can think clearly, act purposefully, and find peace. When you learn to embrace the now, something remarkable happens. You start to feel lighter, not because life gets easier, but because your mind stops dragging the weight of what's gone or what might never come. That's mental strength, not just enduring chaos, but being fully present inside it. Let's break this down. Most of our emotional suffering doesn't come from what's happening. It comes from what we're thinking about. Guilt lives in the past. Fear lives in the future. But calm lives in the moment. Now you might be thinking, okay, but how do I actually stay in the present when everything is pulling me away from it? That's where mindfulness comes in, not as a buzzword, but as a life tool. You don't need to meditate on a mountain. You can start right where you are. Take a deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the sensations in your body, the coolness of the air, the rise and fall of your breath. This is called anchoring, bringing your awareness back to what's real, not what's imagined. Because the mind will wander. That's its nature. But you can train it to return. Even 1 minute of mindful breathing a day can change your relationship with stress. Not by eliminating problems, but by helping you respond to them with clarity. Another practice that deepens presence is gratitude. Not the big performative kind, but the quiet noticing of small blessings. The taste of warm coffee in the morning, the sound of someone you love laughing, the fact that your heart is still beating right now without you asking it to. Gratitude isn't about ignoring what's hard. It's about also remembering what's still good. And when you learn to notice what's already here, you stop obsessing over what's missing. That shift from lack to presence is what builds emotional resilience. Let's make this even more practical. Instead of obsessing over some big goal that feels far away, focus on the small steps you can take today. Want to change your life? Start by changing your morning. Read something uplifting instead of scrolling. Stretch for 5 minutes. Drink water before coffee. Write down one thing you're grateful for. These are tiny actions, but over time, they rewire your mind. They bring you back to now. And the now is where real change begins. I know this sounds simple, but don't confuse simple with easy. Being present takes practice, especially when your world feels uncertain. when you're waiting for answers or healing from something heavy. But the Stoics remind us that the future isn't promised, and the past isn't yours to fix. What you do have is this moment, this breath, and your ability to choose how you meet it. So instead of asking, will things get better someday? Try asking, what can I do right now, in this moment, to bring peace to myself? Sometimes that answer is as small as a deep breath, or a kind word to yourself, or deciding not to react in anger. And slowly, moment by moment, you begin to build a different kind of strength. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady, present, grounded. Let's end this part with one final reflection. When life feels overwhelming, don't try to solve everything at once. Just come back to the present. The now is where your power lives. It's where you can love, breathe, heal, choose again. It's the only place where you can be fully alive. So confine yourself to the present, not as a limitation, but as a liberation. Because when you embrace the now, you unlock everything you've been searching for. And next, we'll talk about two forgotten strengths that will deepen your resilience even more: humility and empathy. Stay with me. Part 4. Cultivate humility and empathy. We are waves of the same sea, Seneca. Let's be honest. When we think of mental toughness, most of us imagine grit, determination, the ability to push through pain with unshakable focus. But what if I told you that true resilience also comes from something quieter, something softer: humility and empathy? Two qualities often misunderstood. Some see them as signs of weakness or submission, but in reality, they're sources of strength that many overlook. Humility keeps you grounded. Empathy keeps you connected. Together, they help you move through life with clarity, calm, and compassion, even in the hardest moments. Let's start with humility. In a culture that rewards confidence and self-assurance, humility can feel like the opposite of power. But Stoic philosophy sees it differently. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world at the time, reminded himself daily, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That's not morbid, it's grounding. Humility isn't about shrinking yourself. It's about remembering that you're human, that you don't have all the answers, that you can still grow. And that mindset, it makes you flexible, open, and adaptable in the face of failure, change, or challenge. Think about it. How many mistakes in life come from pretending we already know everything? How many conflicts escalate because someone couldn't say, "I don't know," or "I was wrong," or "Can you help me?" Humility invites learning. It softens ego, and it gives you permission to be both strong and evolving. So if you're struggling right now, maybe the strongest thing you can do is ask for help. Not because you're weak, but because you value growth more than pride. Now let's talk about empathy, the ability to see through someone else's eyes, even if you don't agree with them. Seneca wrote, "We are waves of the same sea. You, me, the person who frustrates you, the person who hurt you, we're all part of the same human experience. We all carry wounds. We all fall short. We all want to be seen and heard and loved." Empathy isn't just kindness, it's a deeper recognition that when someone else is struggling, it doesn't make you weaker to care, it makes you wiser. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly listened? Not to respond, not to defend your point, but simply to understand? Active listening is one of the most underrated tools of emotional resilience. Because when you listen without judgment, walls start to come down, arguments soften, relationships shift, understanding grows. It doesn't mean you have to agree, but it does mean you're willing to see the human behind the behavior. And that can change everything. Empathy also teaches patience. something we all need more of in a fast, reactive world. When you're impatient, it's often because you've forgotten that others are going through things you can't see. That delay on the phone call, that coworker who snapped, that friend who canceled last minute, you never know what someone else is carrying. Empathy gives you the emotional space to pause, to say, maybe this isn't about me. And that pause protects your peace. Finally, both humility and empathy lead us to something powerful. Forgiveness. Forgiveness of others. Forgiveness of yourself. Because let's be real, some of the hardest battles we fight are internal. Regret, shame, disappointment in ourselves. Humility says, you're human, of course you make mistakes. Empathy says, and you still deserve compassion. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means releasing the need to carry it any longer. And that release, it's one of the strongest things you can do for your mental health. So as you continue building inner strength, don't overlook these two quiet powers. Humility keeps your ego in check and your mind open. Empathy keeps your heart soft and your relationships strong. Together, they form a resilient, wise, and grounded way of being, especially in a world that often rewards the opposite. Because true mental toughness isn't about going it alone. It's about recognizing your limits, honoring your shared humanity, and choosing grace over pride. And that's what turns challenge into growth and conflict into connection. Up next, we'll explore something that might surprise you, how practicing gratitude, even in difficulty, builds emotional resilience and inner peace. Stay with me. Part 5. Practice gratitude. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Epictetus. Let's be honest. When life feels heavy, gratitude isn't always the first thing that comes to mind. In fact, when you're tired, stressed, or struggling, the idea of being grateful can feel a little out of reach, or even frustrating, like you're being asked to smile through something that clearly hurts. But Stoicism and modern neuroscience invite us to see gratitude in a different light. Not as denial, not as sugarcoating, but as a tool, a quiet, powerful tool that can shift the way we experience everything. Gratitude doesn't ignore what's missing. It simply refuses to let what's missing define the moment. Epictetus put it plainly. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. In other words, wisdom isn't about getting everything you want. It's about noticing what you already have before it's gone. And the beauty of this is that gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's a practice. One that, over time, literally rewires your brain. When you make space every day to focus on what's good, no matter how small, your mind starts to shift. You become more resilient, less reactive, more open. Why? Because your brain begins to see abundance, not scarcity. Possibility, not threat. Strength, not lack. So how do we begin? Start small. Every morning or evening, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be profound. Some days it might be your morning coffee, or the warmth of your blanket, or that one song that always lifts your mood. Other days it might be a lesson you learned the hard way, or the fact that you made it through a tough conversation without losing your center. This is more than journaling. It's mental conditioning. Each time you practice gratitude, you remind your nervous system, there is still beauty here. There is still hope. I am still standing. And in a world that constantly pushes us to chase more, this quiet act of noticing becomes radical. Now let's talk about something deeper. Gratitude for adversity. This is where Stoicism meets soul work. It's one thing to be thankful when life is smooth. It's another to say, I'm grateful for the struggle, because it shaped me. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." This doesn't mean we celebrate pain, but it does mean we begin to see it as part of our refinement. Think back on something hard you've been through: a breakup, a loss, a failure. You didn't ask for it, but now on the other side, you carry something new: insight, boundaries, strength. That is worth acknowledging. That is something to be grateful for. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it helps us find meaning in it. Here's one more powerful shift: reframing setbacks as opportunities. We all face disappointment, things not going the way we hoped. But what if the setback isn't a dead end, but a detour to something better? That job you didn't get might lead to a path that finally aligns with your values. That rejection might push you to build something of your own. That mistake might teach you more than success ever could. When you begin to see every challenge as an invitation to grow, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" That mindset, curious, grateful, empowered, is what builds mental toughness. So here's a simple reflection for today. What's something you once resented that you now appreciate? And what might you be going through right now that your future self will thank you for? You don't have to be grateful for everything immediately, but you can start by being open to the possibility that even this, yes, this holds a hidden gift. And if nothing else, you can be grateful for your own growth, for your ability to keep showing up, even when it's hard, for the strength that's building quietly inside you. Because sometimes gratitude isn't a reaction, it's a decision, a choice to see clearly, to honor what remains, to keep your heart open, even when the world tells you to close it. And in the end, that's what Stoic gratitude is all about. It's not loud, it doesn't demand attention, but it changes everything, starting from within. Next, we'll talk about one of the most powerful Stoic transformations: how to turn life's obstacles into fuel for your growth. Let's keep going. Part 6. Transform challenges into opportunities. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. Let's face it, when life throws something hard at us, our first instinct is rarely to smile and say, "Great, another opportunity for growth." More often, we resist. We ask, "Why is this happening to me?" We feel like victims of the situation, stuck, frustrated, maybe even hopeless. But the Stoics saw obstacles differently. To them, challenges weren't detours. They were the path itself. Marcus Aurelius said it best: "What stands in the way becomes the way." Not just poetic words, but a mental shift that can change your life. Because what if the very thing you think is blocking you is actually building you? Let me explain. When we encounter hardship, a failed project, a rejection, a sudden loss, it's easy to get trapped in the mindset of defeat. But the Stoics invite us to ask something different. What can this teach me? How can I grow because of this, not just in spite of it? Every challenge is a form of training. Every setback is a hidden lesson. And every painful season is preparing you for something ahead, even if you can't see it yet. Let's bring this down to earth with a real example. Imagine you're working toward a dream. Maybe it's building a business, starting a new career, or healing from a broken relationship. You pour in your time, your heart, your energy, and then things fall apart. It's devastating, and you might feel tempted to give up. But what if that failure was actually feedback? What if it revealed something you needed to adjust? What if it helped you build the exact resilience, clarity, or humility you'll need for the next version of that dream? You didn't fail, you trained, and that changes everything. The Stoics didn't just talk about enduring pain, They practiced it. One of their tools was called voluntary discomfort. Seneca, for example, would sleep on hard surfaces, eat plain food, or wear rough clothes, not out of self-punishment, but to prepare his mind for difficulty. The idea wasn't to suffer for suffering's sake. It was to build mental muscle. Because when you get used to being uncomfortable on purpose, you become less afraid of discomfort when it shows up uninvited. Try this yourself. Take a cold shower. Go without your favorite luxury for a few days. Say no when it feels hard, or yes when fear tries to hold you back. These small acts may seem insignificant, but over time they develop your emotional calluses. They remind you, I can do hard things. Part 7. Be guided by reason. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Marcus Aurelius. Let's talk about something most of us struggle with: how we respond when we feel overwhelmed, insulted, or afraid. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A friend says something hurtful. An unexpected bill throws off your plans. What's your first reaction? If you're like most people, the answer is emotion, frustration, anger, worry, maybe even panic. And that's okay. You're human. You feel things. But the Stoics believe this: you don't have to be ruled by your feelings, because there's a space between what happens and how you respond. And in that space is where your power lives. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It sounds simple, but in practice, it requires daily discipline. It means choosing reason over reaction. It means responding with intention, not impulse. And that's what this lesson is all about. Learning to be guided by reason, especially when emotions want to take the wheel. Let's break it down. Being guided by reason doesn't mean becoming cold or emotionless. It means letting your thinking mind, not just your feeling mind, lead the way. It means pausing before reacting. It means asking yourself, what's really going on here? What outcome do I want from the situation? Will this matter in a week, a year, 5? And most importantly, is this within my control? Because when you stop reacting to everything around you, you start choosing who you are, no matter what the world throws at you. The Stoics had a powerful practice for this called premeditatio malorum, which literally means the premeditation of evils. It sounds a bit dramatic, but here's the idea. Before stepping into your day, take a moment to mentally walk through the challenges you might face. Someone might irritate you. A plan might fall apart. You might fail at something. And then you ask yourself, if that happens, how will I respond with clarity, not chaos? By mentally rehearsing these events in advance, you train your mind to stay calm when they actually show up. Because they will. Life is unpredictable, but you don't have to be. Another essential practice is daily reflection. At the end of each day, ask, where did I react impulsively? Where did I stay calm and wise? How could I respond better tomorrow? This isn't about judging yourself harshly. It's about learning, about upgrading your awareness. And gradually it helps you respond with reason more often than emotion. It's a slow, subtle transformation, but over time, you become more grounded. Not because life got easier, but because you became stronger. Let me give you an example. Imagine a tense conversation with someone you love. Your emotions want to jump in, defend yourself, prove your point, win the argument. But if you pause, breathe, and let reason guide you, you might realize that what matters most isn't being right. It's being kind. It's listening. It's staying calm when your ego wants to attack. And when you do that, something powerful happens. You shift the energy of the moment. You create space for understanding. You become someone who responds, not someone who reacts. Being guided by reason also means committing to something deeper, your values. The Stoics called these virtues, and they come down to four: wisdom, seeing clearly; courage, doing what's right even when it's hard; justice, treating others fairly; temperance, staying balanced in action and thought. When you use reason to align your behavior with your values, you build real inner peace because you're no longer tossed around by emotion or external chaos. You're rooted in something solid, something no one can take from you. So here's a question worth carrying. What would it look like to let reason, not emotion, guide just one difficult moment today? Maybe it's pausing before snapping at your partner, or breathing before responding to a difficult email, or reminding yourself, this isn't worth my peace. Each time you make that choice, you build mental toughness, not by force, but by clarity, not by controlling everything around you, but by mastering the one thing you truly own, your mind. So the next time life gets loud, pause, breathe, return to reason. Because reason is not weakness, it's power under control, it's clarity in chaos. It's the quiet strength that says, I don't need to react to everything, I know who I am. And that knowing, that's where peace begins. Next, we'll talk about how to cultivate inner tranquility and why true strength often looks like stillness, not force. Stay with me. Part 8. Nurture inner tranquility. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus Aurelius. Let's pause for a moment, not to do more, not to think harder, but simply to breathe. Because in a world that glorifies noise, urgency, and constant achievement, peace has become a quiet rebellion. And yet the Stoics saw peace not as an escape, but as the highest expression of strength. They believed that true toughness isn't loud or aggressive. It doesn't need to prove itself. It's steady, quiet, grounded. It's the kind of strength you carry with you when the outside world is anything but calm. This is the lesson. Nurture inner tranquility, not just when things are good, but especially when they're not. To the Stoics, tranquility wasn't about escaping life's problems. It was about how you meet them. And here's what they discovered. You don't find peace by controlling your environment. You find it by aligning your mind and actions with your values, your virtue. Because when you live in integrity, with wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, something shifts. You begin to feel steady on the inside, even when everything outside you is spinning. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire while facing betrayal, war, plague, said it best. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. In other words, it's not the event that disturbs us, it's our interpretation, and that interpretation can be changed. So how do we begin to nurture that calm within? Start with this. Detach from the need for external validation. Let that sink in. You don't need applause to be enough. You don't need everyone to understand you. You don't need to keep proving your worth. The Stoics warn that chasing approval from society, from social media, from our own perfectionism was a path to suffering. Why? Because it puts your peace in the hands of people who may never understand your journey. Inner tranquility begins when you stop outsourcing your value and start listening inward. Next comes mindfulness and self-reflection, the daily habit of checking in with your own mind. Ask yourself, Where am I holding tension that doesn't belong to me? What fear am I rehearsing that hasn't even happened yet? Is this thought helping me feel grounded or pulling me further from peace? Sometimes you'll catch yourself spiraling into imagined fears. What if I fail? What if they don't like me? What if I lose everything? But the Stoics remind us, most of our suffering doesn't come from what's real. It comes from what we fear might be. Seneca said it clearly. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. That's why mindful awareness of your body, your breath, your thoughts is such a powerful anchor. It brings you back to this moment where peace is always available if you're present enough to receive it. Gratitude is another powerful doorway into tranquility, not the kind that forces you to smile through pain, but the kind that simply notices. Even here, there is something good. Maybe it's the quiet, the lesson you're learning, the fact that you're still breathing, still growing. Gratitude shifts your lens from what's missing to what's still available. And from that place, calm begins to return. And then there's one more piece. Accept the flow of life. This one's hard, especially if you like having plans, if you like feeling in control, if uncertainty makes your chest tighten. But the Stoics taught that everything has its rhythm, its timing, its nature. And much of our tension comes from resisting that flow. We try to force people to change. We fight outcomes we don't like. We cling to how we think things should be. But what if, just for a moment, you said, I will let go of trying to control this and meet it with presence instead. You may not be able to control the wind, but you can adjust your sail. That's acceptance, not as resignation, but as wisdom. So today ask yourself, what am I chasing that's disturbing my peace? What thought or outcome am I clinging to? And how might I return to my center, quietly, calmly, without needing anything to change? Because here's the truth. Tranquility isn't something you find outside yourself. It's something you return to when you remember who you are. Not the titles, not the performance, not the noise, but the calm, wise, unshaken part of you that's always been there, waiting. Up next, we'll explore one of the most powerful inner disciplines of all, detachment, the quiet superpower that frees you from unnecessary suffering. Let's continue. Part 9. Practice detachment. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Epictetus. Let's talk about a quiet practice, one that doesn't look powerful on the outside, but inside, it can completely reshape the way you experience pain, joy, and everything in between. That practice is detachment. Now, before you associate detachment with coldness or indifference, hear this. Detachment is not apathy. It's not about shutting down. It's about standing in your power without needing to control everything around you. Because what the Stoics understood, perhaps better than any other philosophy, is this. Most of our suffering doesn't come from what happens. It comes from our attachments to how we think life should happen, our expectations, our clinging to outcomes, our grasp on people, status, possessions, even our own self-image. That clinging is what tightens the chest, clouds the mind, and drains the soul. So what does real detachment look like? It's emotional independence. It's knowing that you can care deeply without needing things to turn out your way. It's loving someone fiercely while still accepting that they are not yours to control. It's working toward a goal without making your worth depend on the result. Marcus Aurelius said, accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. Not half-hearted, not robotic, with all your heart, but still with acceptance. That's the paradox of Stoic detachment. You feel fully, but you don't cling. Let's take a moment and ask, have you ever found yourself obsessing over something that didn't go the way you planned? Or attached your happiness to a specific outcome only to be crushed when it slipped away? It's human, but here's the shift. You don't need to stop caring. You just need to stop tying your peace to things that are beyond your control. This includes 1. Detachment from outcomes. You can prepare, strive, and give your best effort, but you cannot force results. Sometimes you'll do everything right and still not get what you want. That's not failure. That's life. The Stoics call this amor fati, the love of fate, to meet the outcome with dignity, even if it wasn't the one you hoped for. 2nd, detachment from possessions. In a world obsessed with more, Epictetus reminded us that true wealth isn't having more, it's needing less. If your identity is wrapped in what you own, you're always one accident, one market crash, or one move away from crisis. But when you practice letting go, even in thought, you realize nothing outside of you defines you. You become free. 3. Detachment from people without losing love. Yes, this one's delicate, but real love, the kind that endures, doesn't come from possession or control. It flows from freedom. You can hold someone close without clinging. You can honor their path without making it about your expectations. And when they leave or change or drift, your world doesn't collapse because you never made them the foundation of your peace. 4th, detachment from ego, your title, your image, how others see you. So much tension comes from trying to protect a version of ourselves that we think we need to be. But the Stoics remind us, you are not your reputation. You are not your performance. You are what you do, with courage, with honesty, with virtue, especially when no one's watching. One of the most powerful Stoic exercises to build detachment is negative visualization. It might sound dark, but it's deeply clarifying. Take a moment each day to imagine, gently, what if I lost this? Not to spiral, but to prepare your heart. So when life changes, and it will, you don't shatter. You adjust. And from that mental rehearsal, gratitude grows. You stop taking things for granted. You stop assuming permanence. And you begin to appreciate life, not as a possession, but as a gift. So let me ask you, what are you holding on to too tightly right now? What outcome, person, or image are you afraid to lose? And what might change if you practice loosening that grip? Because here's the truth. You were never meant to carry everything. And freedom doesn't come from gaining more. It comes from needing less. The less you cling, the more you live. Next, we'll dive into one final habit that ties everything together. The daily discipline that keeps your mind strong and your life aligned. Let's continue. Part 10, Forge Ahead. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. There comes a moment in every journey when you feel tired, not just physically, but emotionally. Your plans didn't work. The goal feels far. You're not sure if you're moving forward or just going in circles. And in that quiet space, a voice creeps in. Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I should just stop. But this moment, this exact moment, when you're unsure, uncomfortable, or afraid, this is the moment when resilience is built. Because Stoicism doesn't promise an easy path. It never did. But what it does promise is that you have everything within you to keep going, even when life doesn't cooperate, especially when it doesn't. Marcus Aurelius said, "What stands in the way becomes the way, not a detour, not a dead end, but the very thing meant to forge your strength." When life blocks your path, Stoicism invites you to ask, how can I move through this, not around it? That's the mindset shift. Obstacles aren't always signs to stop. Sometimes they're invitations to grow. Let's get practical. What do you do when you're stuck? You take the next small step. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Start where you are, do what you can, and trust that progress doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be consistent. Break the big, overwhelming vision into one tiny act of courage. Send the email, make the call, journal your thoughts, take the walk, breathe, because every small act stacks up. And when you look back, it's not the leaps that moved you forward, it's the quiet discipline to keep showing up. Failure, let it teach you. Every setback is feedback. It's part of the process, not proof that you're unworthy. We often think failure means we need to quit, but failure is a necessary forge. The way the sword is made is through fire. So allow the fire to temper you, not destroy you. Now there's another piece, adaptability. Sometimes the plan needs to change. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. The mission remains. But the method, that's flexible. Think about a river. When it meets a rock, it doesn't stop. It bends, flows, reshapes the path, but always moves forward. Can you do the same? Can you hold your purpose tightly while holding your plans loosely? And through it all, here's what matters most. Reconnect with your why. Why did you begin? What do you value? Who are you becoming through this? Because when your steps are grounded in purpose, even when the journey is hard, your heart stays soft and your feet stay steady. And above all, stay hopeful. Progress is not a straight line. Some days will feel like breakthroughs. Others will feel like setbacks. But that's not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're alive, that you're growing, because real transformation is rarely visible in the moment. It's only after months or years of showing up that you look back and realize you didn't just survive, you changed. You grew stronger, quieter, clearer, more aligned. So I'll leave you with this. What if the life you dream of isn't built through bursts of greatness, but through the quiet decision to keep going, especially when it's hard? That's how resilience is forged. That's how the path is walked. That's how you become unshakable, not all at once, but one step at a time, cultivating inner strength one day at a time. So here we are, 10 powerful and sometimes painful Stoic lessons, each one asking something from you, not perfection, not indifference, but presence, awareness, a deeper kind of strength. Because let's be honest, mental toughness doesn't come naturally to most of us. It's not some gift you're born with. It's built, quietly, repeatedly, on the days when it would have been easier to give in, numb out, or run away. But instead, you pause, you reflect, you choose to respond instead of react. And that choice, that is where resilience is born. The Stoics never promised that life would be easy. What they offered instead was clarity, a way to meet life on its own terms, with a steady heart and a grounded mind. They gave us tools, mindfulness to anchor us in the now, detachment to free us from what we can't control, reframing to turn pain into growth, presence to keep us from drowning in the past or fearing the future, humility to stay teachable, and inner peace, not as a luxury, but as a daily discipline. And when you begin to live by these principles, Not perfectly, but intentionally, something shifts. You stop needing life to go your way. You stop chasing outcomes that never satisfy. You start living with purpose, not noise, with strength that doesn't need to be loud, with a kind of calm that isn't shaken by storms. So let me ask you, which of these 10 lessons do you feel called to practice today? Not all of them, not at once, just one, just today. Because mastery isn't built overnight, it's built daily, in small, steady acts of self-awareness. It's when you journal after a hard day, when you take a deep breath before reacting, when you let go of what's not yours to carry, when you show up for your values even when no one's watching. Over time, something incredible happens. You don't just survive adversity, you thrive in it. You grow through it. You become someone even you admire because you've earned it. More resilient, more grounded, more alive. If this journey spoke to something in you, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, not just for content, but for community, for reflection, for the quiet strength we all need a little more of. And I'll leave you with this. Life will keep testing you, but now you have the tools. Now you know the way. Stay grounded, stay steady, and above all, stay true to who you're becoming.